Now, I'll be joined by the great Douglas Murray shortly, but first let's jump into today's big news with senior columnist with The Australian, Nick Cater. Nick, we raised this issue 3 weeks ago, as I just mentioned. The Australian Electoral Commission ignored it, and today the issue blew up. What's your take on those ads? And just as importantly, the information ads which are appearing all over the television and radio. Do you think they are completely neutral, or are they sounding very much like a Yes campaign commercial?
I think they've definitely crossed the line here, Rita. I mean, I've got a lot of admiration for what the AEC do to get Indigenous people to vote. I mean, they go to enormous lengths every election to get out to those remote communities, and good on them. But it's clear, I think, from the language that they're using, it's familiar to the Yes campaign, they're probably not even conscious of their own bias. But I think when Warren Mundine, one of the leaders of the No campaign, says, look, please have a look at this, I think they should take it a little bit more seriously than this. I mean, there's only two sides in this, right? The Yes side and the No side. And if one side is saying foul play, then the AEC should look at this and do it. I mean, these people are going to draw up the ballot paper for us in the end. I fear that we'll get with them. There'll just be one box on it at the rate they're going.
Now, we are used to seeing some truly unruly behaviour from parliaments around the world, but this week the drama was in our federal parliament, with Lydia Thorpe instigating this clash with her anti-police histrionics.
Now, we also have First Nations police who are doing their best
it's still police.
To improve the situation
police are police.
Across the
Doesn't matter what colour you are.
Not just
police
in
are police.
Alice Springs.
Shame on you.
No, shame on you. You're the one who brings disgrace.
They're the ones killing our people.
You bring disgrace not
you
only
tell that
to
to
this Senate, you are the
you
disgrace.
tell that to Kuman J. Walker's family.
How dare you?
Tell that to Kuman J. Walker's family.
You're a disgrace.
Concrete
to
slabs.
the Senate, and you're a disgrace to your people.
Okay.
Yes, Nick, the NT Police Association have responded. They've said this. They said Senator Thorpe's comments demonstrate a severe lack of understanding and awareness of the dire situation faced by NT Police and the pressing need for increased resources and staffing. This is an example, Nick. We repeatedly sold the lie that all Indigenous Australians agree and an Indigenous voice will speak for the community at large, when we know that's not the case. Just like every other community, there are diverse opinions, and that was just an example of that.
Yeah, but it's great TV, isn't it, Rita? I mean, if The Voice was really going to be like that, I might even be inclined to vote for it, because they put it on live on TV. But no, this is a serious matter. I think that particularly Lydia Thorpe's view on the police, her adoption of this defund the police rhetoric from the United States, and we know where that has led to complete lawlessness in some cities and some over the last few years. And you know, that is really dangerous, radical talk, and it just shows why she's now too radical, even for the Greens. But your point is exactly correct. You know, I mean, we're just going to be one voice, right? We're just going to end up one voice speaking for all Indigenous people, and it won't be a voice that's anything like Jacinta Price's. I guarantee you that.
No, but this story gives us a real insight into the type of world some of those pro-voice campaigners want. 3AW's reported Indigenous people would be able to ice skate at a Melbourne pop-up rink next month for half the price of others. So this place is instituting this discrimination. You can call it a tax on non-Indigenous people. You could look at it that way. But I just can't see, Nick, how this is in any way progressive, how it's going to unite us, and what's going to stop anybody walking up and saying, I'm Indigenous, so they can pay half price.
This cuts across everything in your Australian sensitivity, doesn't it? We treat people equally here. We don't do these things. The only half-price offer I'm prepared to countenance at the ice rink, Rita, is for one-legged people. everybody with two legs plays the same, as far as I'm concerned. And you know, I think this is the sort of thing that really gets people's backs up. I used to go to China a lot in the early 90s as a journalist, and I used to get really angry when I get charged more. They'd have a foreigner's price and a local's price, and it just grated with me. And I remember, you know, getting really, really angry about that because they're discriminating on race. And here we are, they're doing the same here, exactly the same here. Well,
I can give you a heads up. I can see my son going down there because he's been at that pop-up rink before, if it's the one I'm thinking of, and he's going to pay half price because I just know this sort of antics him and his mates are going to pull. They're not going to want to pay $35 if they can pay $17.50. That's what's going to happen with a lot of teenagers who are their primary market there. Now let's go to the US. Another corporate's finding out the hard way that far-left activism comes with a price. New York Post reports Target has lost $9 billion in market value in just a week since angry social media users called for a boycott of the retailer over its rollout of the Pride collection, featuring things like LGBTQ-friendly clothing for children. Nick, Target was selling tuck-friendly swimwear for children. So it looks like they've learnt nothing from the Bud Light catastrophe.
No, they completely jumped the shark. They've jumped the woke shark here, haven't they? They've gone the full bore. You know, not just we've got to show, you know, be fair to transgender people, but we're going to support the idea that kids should not only change gender but should change their anatomy, and we'll provide the swimwear to suit. This is completely over. You know, this is completely out of most people's sense of what's reasonable or decent. And I tell you what, I feel like boycotting Target here. I wonder if Kmart's open.
Yeah, well, they say Target's a bit harder to boycott than, say, Bud Light. They've got a diverse range of products. It's an easy place to shop. So I was surprised that this boycott has been so successful in the early days. We'll see if it lasts. Now, let's go to Victoria. This is classic Dan Andrews. The state is in record debt, highest debt of any state after 6 lockdowns. A bunch of crippling new taxes are being introduced on every productive segment of the community. But hey, look, Dan's giving away free tampons, Nick. Everything's okay. I mean, he just is a master at this sort of, I don't know, he just gets away with it. And ignore the massive crisis here. We're going to give you a little something here. And when you've got no opposition, Nick, you can get away with this sort of stuff.
It's crass, isn't it? I just find this stuff so tokenistic and just it's just very, very low-grade politics. But with our money, of course. I mean, hopefully, I don't know. I'm not a long time since I bought tampons. I don't know what the price is, but hopefully they're not spending too much taxpayers' money on that because they're wasting a lot, as you know. A tax bill, you know, we're going to be in $171 billion debt in 4 years. But it is just disgraceful, tokenistic, cheap politics, and I hope voters will, male and female, recognise this for what it is.
Well said indeed. And I know you've written about what's happening in Victoria. Is it for tomorrow's paper or is it for skynews.com.au?
I have indeed, and I point out that we've got this special COVID levy that you poor Victorians are having to pay, supposedly to pay off what Tim Pallis calls the COVID credit card. But, you know, normally if you pay off your credit card, you expect to see the balance decrease. But if you look at their forward estimates, the debt actually increases. So what justification is there for paying it off? And why is the debt increasing now? Why is the debt continuing to increase long after COVID? Because they're spending too much.
Well, of course they're spending. Every single project is over budget dramatically. They are still spending like drunken sailors and just taxing to the point where it's really going to hit mum and dad investors. It's going to hit renters because they're going to have some of this cost passed on to them, and it's going to hit small to medium-sized businesses. It is a crisis in Victoria for the economy. I think we don't know just how bad it is unless you live in this state.